Now, when we have this kind of weather, what we really want from our cars is something that can wade through all the floods, deal with all the destroyed roads, and of course, the traffic madness that comes with the rain. So we're talking about monsoon machines, cars that are higher off the ground, cars that are strong and sturdy, and that are automatic. Well, with the BRV being a new entrant, we thought we'd pit it against the capable Creta and see which one comes out ahead. Both cars come equipped with a 1.5-litre petrol engine and auto boxes. Whilst the Honda looks at a slight disadvantage on paper with 119 HP and 145 Nm of torque against the Creta's 123 HP and 151 Nm of torque, out on the road, it's a different story. The Creta goes off the mark in a sprightly manner. But other than that, it really doesn't put its additional power to good use. Torque is concentrated into a small power band, and very often you find yourself mashing your foot to the floor to get the Creta to make a move on. And then you come up with nothing. The gearbox takes a while to react, and it's almost as if the engine is gasping for air. The Creta works best at path throttle and with lighter input, so it's the most comfortable in city conditions. Out on the highway, it falls short. The engine of the BRV has a nice wide torque spread, and power comes in as early as 2000 RPM. So when you put your foot on the throttle for an overtake maneuver, power is served up. The gearbox is quick to react to, and it keeps the car within the power band, so you don't really have to mash your foot down each time to extract power. The BRV makes light of driving in both city and highway conditions in comparison to the Creta. Though the acceleration doesn't feel as meaty, it does it in a more linear manner, making the best of available power. Both engines get vocal when pushed hard, but you hear the Creta protesting more often as you have to accelerate harder more often too. Now, a nice touch on the BRV is paddle shift, but you have to put it in sport mode if you want it to hold the gear. In the drive mode, it irritatingly slips into a higher gear moments after you shift down, so best to keep it in sport if you intend to use the paddles. The Creta doesn't have a paddle shift, but it does have manual mode, and I found myself using that a lot to keep it in the power band. Now, the BRV feels lower to the ground and more car-like to drive, whereas the Creta feels more like an SUV. So the Creta provides the SUV image better, and it makes you feel like you're driving a bigger, tougher machine. Overall refinement of the Creta is better, and it's far more silent in the cabin. The BRV feels a little long whilst driving, and without parking sensors or a reverse cam, it's really difficult to judge when parking. But on the whole, when you're driving, the car-like feel has its advantages. The steering of the BRV is the better of the two. It's definitely the better weighted, and it's the one that gives you more confidence whether you're at high speed in a straight line or whether you're cornering. The Creta steering is light, and the quicker you go, the less feel you get. Though the car goes around corners well enough, it really isn't as settled or as sure as the BRV, and you feel the BRV's composure even in its backseat. Now, at low speeds, the BRV does have a slightly firmer edge, so you do feel things filter through, but it's not really intrusive because the edges are blunted off, and as you pick up the pace, this is the better ride quality, overall being the flatter and more composed one. Legroom in the back of the BRV is marginally less than the Creta, but it's more than adequate, and actually impressive considering that there is another row of seats behind it and some boot space. The seats have a slider and recline too, so you can get pretty comfortable. Still, it does have its shortcomings. You sit quite low to the ground in an ease-up position here in the BRV, and space is less than the Creta, especially the width of the seat. But what's really nice is this huge window area with a sort of dip in the middle, which makes it open and spacious and airy. You also hear the BRV suspension at work more than the Creta, which is more silent. The back seat of the Creta is the more comfortable place to be, whether we talk about the cushioning of the seat, the under-thigh support, the recline angle, and then of course you have marginally more legroom. But the biggest difference really is the width of the seat, and 3 people abreast is more comfortable here. But the window line is quite high, so it doesn't feel as open as the BRV. As far as ride goes, in slower city conditions, the Creta has the edge. Ride quality of the Creta at low speed is good, it's supple, it doesn't let much filter through to the passenger at all. Overall, it's the Creta that offers a slightly more premium experience, be it the refinement or the plushness of the cabin. The interior of the Creta still impresses. I mean, even when you get on the inside, after a while, you still go, wow. It's a nice modern layout. I love the two-tone coloring. There's a nice finish to the central part of the console. You've got a touch screen. And of course, lots of storage spaces, not to mention an impressive feature list. The BRV's interior, though not as modern or as flamboyant as the Creta, is still good quality. The plastics on top of the dash are actually better, and the all-black steel with the metal highlights works well. The steering from the city looks good too, but it's the layout that's a bit odd. And the central part of the dash with the music system looks like an aftermarket solution. It's a tiny screen, but you do get Bluetooth and aux connectivity. Still, the BRV does hold its own trump card. Now, the BRV does have a distinct advantage over the Creta, and that's that third row. Yes, you get 2 extra seats, and they're very easy to get into. It's a single lever flip down. And once you're inside, space is pretty impressive. I mean, it's really got good legroom considering, you know, there's 3 rows of seats, the middle row is spacious, and it is still a compact SUV. So I'm quite impressed. Yes, you do sit a little low to the ground and you are knees up, but it's not uncomfortable. The Creta, of course, has the bigger boot without that third row. But the BRV is versatile too. It's decent enough space for 2 trolleys or a large bag with the seats up, and then you can flip the seats down to open up more space. The Honda styling is probably its biggest sore point. It looks unnecessarily stretched from the side, and because of the kink in the doors, there's no getting away from the Mobilio heritage. But the nose and tail are all new. Up front, the squared-out bonnet, chrome-rich grille, and angular headlamps give it a unique look. Round the back, the linked rear taillights are a good addition too. As an overall package, the design works reasonably well, but placed alongside the Creta, it comes across more MUV than SUV. It just lacks the visual appeal of the SUV it's up against, the Creta. There is little doubt that the Creta's square stance resonates very positively with most people who view it. Despite the squarer, taller profile, it still has those flowing, fluidic lines the Indian market has so grown to love. And the design just draws your eyes to it. Now, interestingly, despite the fact that the Creta stands visually way taller than the BRV, it is the BRV that has more ground clearance. Well, there's no two ways about it. The Creta is the one with the image. It's the more butch, more SUV-like car. And of course, it has that comfortable back seat, not to mention the rich and premium feel, the good quality interiors, and that impressive feature list. But the BRV puts up a great fight too. It doesn't look it, but it is actually higher off the ground than the Creta. Surprising, but yes, it is. and it has that engine with a wide spread of torque, which is easy to drive in traffic conditions and great for cruising out on the highway too. The gearbox is nice, the ride is flat and composed overall, and when you're behind the wheel, it's the one that gives you the better sense of security, whether we're talking about stability at high-speed straight line or around the corners. And of course, let's not forget the bonus that you get with the BRV, those 2 extra seats. It is a 7-seater. So considering that people are in the market for a petrol auto, they're going to be wanting to drive themselves, the BRV is definitely the better choice. And at a lakh less than the Creta, it's the more sensible one too.